It was past midnight when Eddie Mercer rolled his 18-wheeler down the twisting blacktop of US Route 19, deep in the Appalachian Mountains. The fog had settled in thick that night, so thick his high beams only painted a glowing white wall ahead of him. He leaned forward over the wheel, squinting. The hum of the diesel engine, the only comfort in the suffocating silence of the mountains. Truckers had a saying about this stretch of road: when the fog rolls in, you're not alone anymore. Eddie never paid much mind to the old tales, but tonight, that phrase was about to etch itself into his bones. He slowed down as the road bent sharply, guardrails disappearing into nothing but mist. His CB radio crackled with static, then went dead. Eddie tapped the side of it, but the silence that followed was louder than the engine. Then, out of nowhere, a shape appeared. A woman stood in the middle of the road. She was dressed in a pale, flowing gown, her hair long and black, dripping as if she had just climbed out of a river. Her bare feet pressed against the wet asphalt. Eddie's heart slammed in his chest. He slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching, trailer rattling like thunder. The truck lurched to a stop just inches away from her, but she didn't move. She didn't flinch. She only raised her head slowly, her face pale, her eyes dark pits that reflected no light. Eddie cursed under his breath and reached for his flashlight. He flicked it on and leaned out the window. "Ma'am, you okay? You need help?" His voice cracked, echoing off the fog. The woman tilted her head at him, jerky, unnatural, like a puppet on strings. Her lips parted, and in a voice that sounded like it came from beneath the earth, she whispered, "Don't go down the mountain." Eddie's skin went cold. He blinked, and in that instant she was gone. Not a sound, not a trace. The road ahead was empty. His breathing grew ragged. Every instinct screamed at him to turn the truck around. But Eddie was already running behind on his delivery, and in this business, time meant money. He gritted his teeth, muttered that he was just tired, and pressed the accelerator. For a while, nothing happened. Just the steady crawl of headlights through endless fog. Eddie almost convinced himself it was a trick of exhaustion. Maybe he had nodded off. Maybe the woman never existed. Then the road ahead forked. He didn't remember there being a fork. He slowed, squinting through the fog, trying to recall the map. One road curved gently downhill, another leads straight into the forest. His gut told him to go left, but then he saw her again, the woman, standing at the entrance of the left road. Her arms stretched out, as if to block him. Eddie slammed the brakes again. His chest heaved. His hands trembled on the wheel. This time, she spoke louder, her voice sharp and broken, like glass grinding against stone. "Don't go down the mountain." Before he could respond, she turned her head, unnaturally far, almost backward, and pointed toward the other road. Then she vanished into the mist. Eddie swallowed hard. Against his better judgment, he followed her direction. Minutes turned into miles. The road grew narrower, lined with skeletal trees. The fog thickened until it seemed alive, pressing against the cab windows. The CB radio hissed suddenly. Then a voice broke through. "Anyone hear me?" Eddie grabbed the mic. "This is Driver Mercer. You're breaking up. Who is this?" Static. "Don't stop." Then silence again. Eddie's knuckles went white. His skin prickled. That voice, it was the same one as the woman's. Before he could process it, headlights appeared in the distance, barreling straight toward him. Another semi. Eddie honked his horn, swerved hard, his tires screeching as the massive vehicle thundered past, missing him by inches. But as he looked into the mirror, there was nothing. No truck. Only fog. Eddie's heart pounded. He pulled over, his chest rising and falling like a jackhammer. He wanted to turn back, to get out of this nightmare stretch of road. But when he looked in the mirror again, his blood froze. She was standing in the middle of the road behind him. Closer this time, her gown rippled as if underwater. Her face was pale as death, her mouth opening wider, wider, until it split unnaturally, her scream rattling the glass. Eddie floored the gas pedal, the truck roaring forward, wheels spitting gravel. He didn't stop. He didn't look back. Finally, after what felt like hours, the fog thinned. The night opened up to a small town at the foot of the mountain. Eddie pulled into a gas station, shaking, drenched in sweat. The old man behind the counter eyed him carefully. "You look like you've seen a ghost," the man said. Eddie managed a weak laugh. "Maybe I have." The old man's face grew serious. "Let me guess. A woman in white tells you not to go down the mountain." Eddie froze. The man nodded slowly. "She's been there for years. Truckers that don't listen, they never make it down. Landslides, jackknifes. Some say the road itself disappears. But the ones who listen," he trailed off, his eyes locking with Eddie's. "They live to tell the story." Eddie's hands shook as he lit a cigarette, staring out into the night, where the fog clung to the edges of the town, like a predator waiting for its next victim. He had listened, but deep down, he knew he had only delayed whatever fate haunted that cursed road. The rain had just started to fall when Calvin Red Hughes guided his rig up the steep climb of Interstate 77, winding through the Appalachian spine. Lightning forked in the distance, illuminating jagged ridges and thick forests that seemed to breathe with the storm. It was 2 a.m., and the road was eerily empty. No headlights behind him, no taillights ahead. Just him, his engine, and the pounding rain. That's when he heard it. A low rumble. Not his truck. Not thunder. It was deeper, layered, like multiple engines growling together. Calvin leaned forward, squinting into the storm. Through the sheets of rain, faint lights appeared on the ridge above. One pair, then two, then three. A whole convoy. But something wasn't right. The lights weren't steady, they flickered like candles. They didn't reflect properly in the wet asphalt. Within seconds, the convoy was behind him, engines roaring, the sound shaking his very bones. Calvin checked his mirrors, his stomach tightening. 4 massive semis, matte black, chrome grills shining wet under the storm. Their headlights were pale, almost bluish, casting no beams, no reflection. They drove too close, too tight, a perfect formation. No trucker convoy ever drove that precise, especially in weather like this. Calvin gripped the wheel. "All right, boys," he muttered. "You can pass me any time now." But they didn't pass. They closed in, inches from his trailer. Then, all at once, their CB radios crackled alive except Calvin hadn't touched his. A voice came through, low, hollow, distorted. "Keep up." Calvin's mouth went dry. "What the hell?" He grabbed his mic. "Who is this?" "You're right on my back bumper." Static, then laughter. Dozens of voices overlapping, warped, like the storm itself was laughing at him. Then the convoy accelerated. They overtook him, in perfect unison, their tires making no sound on the wet road. Calvin's jaw dropped. The trucks slid past his rig like shadows, their drivers invisible behind black glass. But when he looked again, there were no license plates, no company logos, no markings at all, just blank, metallic hulks. Dot. The lead truck's brake lights flashed. It slowed, forcing Calvin to slow too. Then another voice came through the CB. This time, it was clearer, deeper, a man's voice, cold as iron. Follow. Against every instinct, Calvin did. Because what choice did he have? The convoy boxed him into trucks behind, one in front, one at his side. He was trapped. The rain thickened, lightning splitting the sky. They led him off the interstate, down an exit he didn't remember being there. His GPS went blank. His phone lost signal. The world outside the convoy faded into darkness. The road narrowed, climbing higher into the mountains. The trees pressed close, skeletal branches scraping at his trailer like claws. Calvin's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "This ain't real," he muttered. "This ain't real." This ain't real. But it was ahead. The lead truck's taillights burned brighter, then vanished into a tunnel carved into the mountain. The others followed, one by one. When Calvin's rig entered, the storm outside cut off instantly. Silence swallowed him whole. The tunnel was impossibly long. No lights, no sound except the hum of his engine. Yet the convoy ahead glowed faintly, their ghostly outlines guiding him. Deeper and deeper underground. Then he saw them. Figures, standing along the tunnel walls. Men and women in ragged clothes, eyes hollow, faces pale and wet. Some held lanterns, others just stared. All of them turned their heads as his truck rolled past, their eyes following him in unison. Calvin's skin crawled. He wanted to stop. He wanted to slam the brakes, throw it in reverse, and get the hell out. But the trucks behind him pressed closer, hemming him in. He had no choice but to go deeper. Finally, the tunnel opened into a cavern, a vast underground hollow, ceiling dripping with stalactites. The convoy slowed to a stop. Their pale headlights flickered and died. Darkness. Then, through the black, the CB came alive, one last time. "You drive with us now." Calvin's heart hammered. "The hell I do." He slammed his foot on the accelerator. The engine roared. His headlights flared in. The cavern was empty. No trucks. No figures. No tunnel. He was back on the interstate. Rain slamming against the windshield. Lightning flashing. His hands shook so badly, he could barely hold the wheel. He pulled into the next rest area, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. There were other truckers parked there. Real ones. Engines humming. People moving about. Normal. Calvin stumbled into the diner, needing the smell of coffee, the chatter of voices, anything to remind him the world was still real. The waitress, an older woman with sharp eyes, took one look at him and frowned. "You saw them, didn't you?" Calvin froze. She nodded grimly. "The Phantom Convoy. They've been riding these mountains since the 70s. Whole crew of truckers died in a pileup up near Fancy Gap. Storm swallowed him whole. Now, when the weather turns bad, they come back. Recruiting." Her voice dropped low. "The ones that follow too far never come back." Calvin sat in silence, his coffee cooling in front of him, the storm still raging outside. He had followed, but somehow, by some cruel twist, he had been spat back out, and deep in his gut. He knew it wasn't mercy, it was an invitation. The next time the storm came, they'd be waiting for him, and he might not escape twice. By the time the midnight shift came around, Will Danner had been trucking for 20 years. He knew the Appalachian highways like the lines in his palms. Every curve, every rest stop, every mountain pass that could eat a rookie alive. But there was one stretch of road he hated, Route 33, running through the West Virginia backwoods. Locals called it Widow's Bend. Will had heard the stories, of course. A woman thumbing rides in the dead of night, always standing in the same spot, always vanishing before she reached her destination. Every trucker he knew swore it was nonsense. Will had laughed it off too, until the night she appeared in his headlights. The fog was thin, the rain light, but visibility wasn't great. Will kept both hands steady on the wheel, listening to an old country station crackle through the radio. That's when he saw her. A figure, standing at the edge of the road, a young woman, drenched, her pale blue dress plastered to her skin, her hair, long and tangled, clung to her face. She lifted her arm, thumb out, shivering. Will's first instinct was to keep driving, but something in his gut twisted. She looked too real, too desperate. He slowed the truck, headlights sweeping over her. When she turned her face toward him, his stomach dropped. Her skin was gray, lips bluish, as though she'd been pulled from icy water. Yet her eyes wide pleading were alive. Before he could second-guess himself, Will pulled over. The passenger side door creaked open. "You all right, miss? Where you headed?" She climbed in slowly, dripping water onto the floorboard. She smelled faintly of river weed, sharp and earthy. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Just home. Will nodded and started driving again. He kept his eyes on the road, sneaking glances at her. She sat stiffly, hands folded in her lap, staring out the windshield as if the fog beyond was something only she could see. "Where's home?" he asked. "Up the road, near the bend." Her words were clipped, hollow, but her gaze never left the dark highway. A silence stretched between them, broken only by the engine's low growl. Will's unease deepened with every mile. Finally, the road curved sharply Widow's Bend. He swallowed hard. The girl shifted suddenly, her head turning toward him. Her hair fell away from her face, and Will almost swerved off the road. Her eyes were gone. Empty sockets stared at him, wet and glistening, as she whispered, "You missed the turn." Will slammed the brakes. The truck screeched. The trailer His heart pounded as he tried to regain control. When he turned toward the passenger seat, she was gone. The door was shut. The seat was dry. Not a drop of water remained. Will's breath came in ragged gasps. His palms were slick on the wheel. He wanted to believe he had imagined it, but then he saw the sign ahead. Something pulled at him. Against every rational bone in his body, he pulled over. He climbed out of the cab and walked toward the iron gates, rain soaking his jacket. The cemetery lay silent under the fog. Headstones jutted like teeth from the earth. And there, in the front row, he saw it, a stone angel. Beneath it, a weathered grave. Taken too soon on Widow's Bend. Will's stomach churned. His eyes dropped lower to the base of the headstone. A bouquet of fresh wildflowers lay there, dripping with rain. And next to them, a wet footprint. Small, bare. Will staggered back, heart slamming in his chest. Suddenly, his CB radio in the truck crackled to life. Static hissed. Then a voice came through. A woman's voice. "Thank you for the ride." Then silence. Will didn't wait to hear more. He sprinted back to his truck, slammed the door shut, and drove away as fast as the rig would carry him. For miles, he didn't dare look in the passenger seat, but when he finally did, his blood ran cold. Resting there, where she had sat, was a small, soaked ribbon, blue, frayed at the edges. He threw it out the window the second he saw it, but no matter how far he drove that night, the smell of riverweed clung to the cab, and every so often, just past midnight, when the fog was thick enough, he swore he could hear breathing beside him. Marcus Bell was used to long nights. 20 years behind the wheel of his Peterbilt had hardened him to the loneliness of Appalachian roads, the endless black forests, the ghost towns, the fog that never seemed to lift. But one route still made his stomach knot. Route 129, cutting through North Carolina's Smoky Mountains. Locals whispered about it. They called it the Devil's Tail. Too many curves, too many accidents, and somewhere along its winding path, a bridge that was never on any map. Marcus didn't believe it till the night he found it himself. It was late October, the kind of night where the mist clings low and every shadow seems alive. Marcus was hauling a refrigerated trailer, tires humming along the slick asphalt, when he realized something strange. He'd been driving for over an hour without passing a single car. No headlights, no sign of life. He flicked his CB radio, but it was nothing but static. His GPS froze, the screen flickering, before going black. Then he saw it. Headlights reflected off wet guardrails ahead. The road curved and there it was, a massive iron bridge. Rusted beams, rising into the fog. Its trusses loomed like the ribs of a skeleton, vanishing into darkness on either side. Marcus frowned. He'd driven this route dozens of times. There was no bridge. Not here. Still, the road leads straight to it. He slowed, tires splashing through puddles as he rolled onto the metal grating. The sound echoed like thunder. rattling up through the cab. The further he went, the more wrong it felt. The bridge seemed endless. The far side disappeared into fog, as if he were driving across nothing. The river below, it was a river, was pitch black, reflecting no moonlight, no stars. Halfway across, Marcus's headlights flickered. The dashboard lights dimmed. He slapped the wheel, muttering a curse. That's when he heard it. Footsteps. He froze. The sound was faint, but unmistakable, bare feet slapping wet metal. Slowly, coming closer. Marcus's heart pounded. He checked his mirrors. Nothing. But when he looked back through the windshield, his blood turned to ice. A figure stood ahead of the truck. A man, no, not quite. His body was stretched, too tall. His arms too long. His head tilted at an unnatural angle. Water dripped steadily from his clothes, pooling at his feet. Marcus slammed the brakes. The rig screeched, echoing across the iron. The figure didn't move. Then it began to walk toward him, step by step. Each footfall rang like a hammer on steel. Marcus fumbled for the gear shift, throwing the truck into reverse. The tires screamed, trailer rattling as he backed up, but the bridge behind him was gone. Nothing but fog. He wasn't on any road. He wasn't anywhere at all. The figure came closer. Its face was pale, featureless, like melted wax. Its arms stretched until its fingertips scraped along the bridge, sparks spitting where nail met metal. Marcus floored the accelerator. The engine roared, the cab shuddering as he barreled forward. The figure didn't step aside. At the last moment, just before impact, it vanished. The truck hurtled across the grating. Marcus gritted his teeth, refusing to let off the gas. His vision blurred, the fog swallowing everything. Then suddenly, he was back. The bridge was gone. The road was solid asphalt again, his headlights sweeping across familiar curves of Route 129. Marcus slowed, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his temple. He wanted to believe it was a hallucination. Lack of sleep, nerves, anything but real. But then he heard it. A creak. Metal, under strain, coming from the trailer. His hands shook as he checked the mirrors. The refrigerated trailer doors rattled violently, though they were locked. Something slammed against them from the inside. Once, twice. Again, Marcus pulled into the first rest area he found, stumbling out of the cab, flashlight trembling in his hand. He approached the trailer slowly, breath fogging in the cold air. The rattling stopped. For a moment, silence. Then a wet handprint bloomed across the white metal door, fingers long, too long. The print dripped with water that steamed in the cold night. Marcus stumbled back, flashlight clattering to the ground. When he looked again, the handprint was gone. The trailer was silent, shaking. He climbed back into the cab and drove through the rest of the night, refusing to stop again until the sun rose over the mountains. Later, when he mentioned it to another driver at a truck stop, the man went pale. "You found the bridge," he said flatly. Marcus nodded, throat tight. The driver leaned close, voice low. "That bridge shows up for different folks. Some say it's a crossing, a place where the living and the dead overlap. Truckers who stop on it never come back." Marcus swallowed hard, staring at the road ahead. He had crossed it once, and deep down, he knew the bridge wasn't gone. It was waiting, and next time, it might not let him through. Danny Rhodes had been a trucker long enough to trust his instincts. He knew the rhythm of the road, the hum of the engine, the comforting chatter of the CB radio when loneliness threatened to crush him on long Appalachian runs. But he also knew one rule that old truckers swore by: if you hear a dead man on the CB, don't answer. Danny never believed it until the night his radio spoke a name it shouldn't have known. It was past 3 a.m. Danny was pushing hard along a back road near the West Virginia border. Mountains looming like black giants on either side. The fog was thick, muffling everything, and the road wound tight enough to keep him on edge. The CB crackled, sharp and sudden. "Danny, you're out there?" Danny frowned. He picked up the mic. "Breaker 19. Who's calling?" Over double quotes, static. Then again, clearer this time. "Danny Rhodes. Long time since Fancy Gap." Danny's blood ran cold. Fancy Gap. The name alone made his hands sweat. It was the site of a massive pileup back in the 90s. Fog rolled in. Visibility dropped to nothing, and dozens of vehicles slammed together on the mountain pass. Some truckers never made it out. Danny had been there. Barely survived. But the voice on the CB? It belonged to someone he knew had died that night. It was Lou, Big Dog Henderson. Danny gripped the mic tighter. His voice cracked. "Lou, that you?" The reply came through like a whisper across a grave. "Been riding these roads ever since. We all have." Danny's mouth went dry. Static swelled, filling the cab like a storm. Beneath it, faint voices overlapped. Dozens of them, all whispering at once. "Turn back. The fog takes us all. Don't stop, Danny." Danny slammed the radio off, heart pounding. But the voices didn't stop. They were inside the cab now, whispering from the speakers, even though the radio was dark. "Danny, don't take the next bend." Danny cursed under his breath. He wasn't superstitious. He wasn't scared of ghost stories. But the weight of those voices pressed on him like the fog itself. He reached for the switch, flicking the CB back on. "What do you want from me?" He shouted out for a long moment. Silence. Then Lou's voice returned. "We want you to live." Danny blinked, hands trembling on the wheel. "What?" "Look ahead." Danny squinted through the windshield. The fog shifted just enough to reveal a flash of broken guardrail up ahead. A hairpin curve one. He was about to take too fast. His heart lurched. He slammed the brakes, tires screaming, trailer fishtailing dangerously before settling back onto the road. He stopped just feet from the jagged drop into blackness. His chest heaved. Sweat trickled down his spine. The CB hissed softly. Then Lou's voice again. "Not your time, brother." Danny sat frozen, staring at the broken guardrail. How many had gone over? How many had died right there, swallowed by the mountain? He forced himself to breathe, shifting the truck back into gear. The voices faded into static, then silence. But just as he thought it was over, the CB came alive one last time. "When your time comes, Danny, we'll be waiting." Then the radio went dead. By dawn, Danny pulled into a truck stop diner, hands still shaking. He told himself he wouldn't mention it. People would think he was crazy. But the waitress noticed his pale face, the way his coffee cup rattled in his grip. "Rough night?" she asked. Danny hesitated, then nodded. The old man sitting 2 stools down chuckled darkly. "Let me guess. Heard voices on your CB." Danny's eyes snapped to him. "How'd you know?" The man's smile faded. "Because it happened to me too. 20 years ago. They called me by name. Told me not to take a curve I couldn't see. Saved my life." Danny swallowed hard. "Who were they?" The man stirred his coffee, eyes far away. "Truckers who never made it out of the fog? They talk to us sometimes. Keep us alive a little longer." He looked Danny dead in the eye. "But don't forget, they only warn you once." Danny never told another soul what happened. But every time the fog rolled in and the CB crackled with static, his hands shook just a little harder. Because one day, he knew, the voices wouldn't save him. They'd be calling him home. Sam Carter was He'd been on the road for 16 hours, threading his rig through the Appalachian backroads, where cell signals died and the mountains pressed in like walls. It was just after 2 a.m. when he noticed the headlights in his mirror bright, too bright. A truck was gaining on him fast. Sam frowned. Out here? At this hour? He hadn't seen another vehicle in nearly 40 miles. He eased into the right lane, giving the driver room to pass. But the truck didn't pass. It stayed right on his bumper. Headlights glaring, engine growling like an animal breathing down his neck. Sam grabbed his CB mic. "Breaker 19, you're riding a little close, friend. You wanna ease up?" For a moment, silence. Then a voice replied, flat, cold, "Race me." Sam blinked. "Say again?" The voice crackled louder, distorted, yet unmistakably inhuman. "Race me, or I take you off this mountain." Sam's stomach dropped. He slammed the CB off, sweat prickling his skin. The headlights behind him flared, the truck surging closer, bumping his trailer hard enough to rattle his teeth. Sam cursed and floored the accelerator. His rig roared, gears grinding, as he pushed it harder than he ever dared on mountain curves. The pursuing truck matched him perfectly. They tore down the road together, engines screaming, the night filled with thunder. Every curve Sam took, the other truck mirrored exactly, as if shadowing his every move. Finally, on a long stretch of straight asphalt, the black rig pulled alongside him. Sam glanced over, and his blood froze. The driver was staring directly at him, a man, but not. His skin was pale as chalk, his mouth twisted in a grin too wide for his face, and his eyes pitch black. No whites, no pupils, just endless voids. Sam nearly swerved off the road. He gripped the wheel tighter, refusing to look again, but out of the corner of his eye, he saw the black-eyed driver lean forward, lips curling as he whispered into a CB mic that wasn't connected. "Faster." Sam's rig rattled, every nerve screaming to stop, but something told him if he did, he wouldn't live to see daylight. The two trucks roared side by side through the foggy mountain night. The black-eyed driver's grin, never faltering. His void eyes locked on Sam. Then, ahead, Sam saw it, a sharp curve, the kind that had claimed dozens of rigs before him. Guardrails twisted and bent where others had failed. He hit the brakes, fighting the trailer's sway. His tires screamed. Sparks flew. The black rig didn't brake. It barreled forward, straight into the curve, straight through the guardrail. Sam watched in horror as the truck plunged into the abyss. But there was no crash. No explosion, no sound at all. The rig simply vanished into the fog. Sam sat shaking, his rig idling on the shoulder, chest heaving like he'd run a marathon. He forced himself to breathe, forced himself to believe it was over. Then his CB crackled back to life. "Good race." Sam's heart stopped. He stared at the dead radio, his own reflection pale in the dark windshield. The voice came again, colder. "Next time, you won't win." At dawn, Sam pulled into a small truck stop at the edge of the mountains. His hands trembled as he nursed the coffee, staring out the window at the fog, still clinging to the ridges. An older driver slid into the booth across from him. He looked Sam over, nodded slowly. "You saw him," the man said. Sam swallowed hard. "Who?" The old driver's eyes were hollow. "The black-eyed driver. Shows up when you're too tired, when your guard's down, forces you into a race. You win, you live. You lose." He trailed off, staring at his hands. "Most don't win." Sam's skin crawled. "What is he?" The man shook his head. "Not human. Maybe never was. Some say he's the spirit of every trucker who went over the edge out here. Others say he's something older, tied to the mountains themselves. Doesn't matter. Once he's seen you, he'll be back." Sam didn't sleep that day. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those black pits staring into him. And deep down, he knew the old man was right. It wasn't over. The black-eyed driver would come for him again, and next time, he might not make it out.